Hi, this is Ben from Stage Portal, and you're listening to The Advance, the show that gives you actionable tips, ideas, and tools to level up your gig logistics. And if you want even more ideas of how to improve your gig admin, head over to stageportal.gg to read more ideas and join our free newsletter. Today, we're talking about one of our most popular blog articles. What should bands do after the show? Specifically, the follow-up that most bands never send, and what it would actually do for their gigging career if they did. So working across venues and festivals, I kept a pretty clear mental picture of the bands we'd worked with. Not the stuff that was in the database or spreadsheet, it was impressions in my head. Always have those bands that I'd happily book again and again, and then those I'd really have to think about before wanting to ask them back. And the one thing that surprised me the longer I did it was how rarely bands make contact after a show. Not to complain, not to chase payment, just to say, thanks, that was great, let's do it again. Almost never happens. Now, what did happen fairly regularly was bands would email 3 or 4 months down the road to re-engage and start to booking more dates. Often like they were starting from scratch with every email. Now, this is a really big missed opportunity, especially for grassroots bands. Because here's the thing about grassroots venue operators. They're busy, understaffed, and they're dealing with a lot. When a band makes their night easier, turns up on time, sound check's good, the crowd's happy, the loadout's clean, that really registers with them. But it fades quite quickly and can get buried under the next 3 weeks of weekend shows. Now, a follow-up email or message sent within a few days keeps that goodwill really warm. So it doesn't just close the loop on the relationship, and it puts you back in the venue's inbox exactly in the moment when the memory of you is still fresh and really positive. It's one of the simplest things a band can do, and almost none of them do it. See, timing matters here. Too soon, it can get lost in the kind of chaos of the gig. And too late and the moment's passed and the venue's moved on, and it can kind of just get ignored in the email inbox. See, that kind of key window is kind of 24 to 72 hours after the show. See, timing really matters here. Obviously, on the night, you're going to be saying thank you to the venue operators, the staff, the sound techs, and everyone involved in running the show. But if you send a message on that night, it can often get lost in the kind of chaos of the loadout. And then too late and the moment would have passed and the venue's moved on, it could just get in the email inbox, be cold, and get ignored. See, the key window is kind of 24 to 72 hours after the show. The next day is ideal. The show is recent enough that the venue is still a clear memory of it, and sending something in the follow-up in the morning signals that you're organised and the relationship really matters to you. It also separates you from essentially every other band on their roster because almost no one does this. Now, everyone's busy, it's completely understandable, so if the next day passes and you didn't get to it, the day after is still good. 3 days is kind of the outer limit before it feels like a bit of an afterthought. See, what you're not doing here is waiting until you want something again. Don't send a follow-up email the same week when you're inquiring about a second booking. The follow-up is its own thing, and it exists independent of what comes next. If you only make contact when you need something, venues really notice this and it really shapes their opinion of you. See, the follow-up doesn't need to be long. In fact, shorter, kind of the better. So here's the kind of things you want to cover. So mention something real. The engineer that helped you sound check with being really quick, the bar manager that really sorted you out, the fact that the monitors were actually really good, something really positive about the show, something that shows that you were paying attention, that you noticed their effort that they put into to make the night really work. Secondly, say that the show was good, not in a self-congratulatory way, but just to close the loop. The crowd was great, we really had a good night, so the venue wants to know that their audience responded well to you, and that's really useful information for them and reinforces that booking you was the right call. Third, express some genuine interest in coming back. Just one sentence saying, we'd love to come back when the timing's right. That's all you need to include. You're not asking for specific dates. You're not attaching a new booking inquiry. You're just leaving the door open in a way that feels relaxed instead of being rather pushy. What you're not doing is using this email to air any grievances. If something went wrong on the night, the PA was underpowered, the stage was smaller than advertised, the settlement looked longer than it should, this is not the email where you really want to start raising that. That's a separate conversation handled separately. One other thing that I always found really handy was if bands would send across any videos or images of the night, stuff we could use in further promotion down the road or just follow-up social posts as well. And one more thing you can do is actually mention anyone that specifically helped, like the sound engineer, like I said, if they've made your night an absolute breeze, or the bar manager or anyone in the venue. People really remember when they're acknowledged, so it costs nothing to you and actually means an absolute lot to them. See, this shouldn't take you long, probably about 5 minutes to write, but it will do a lot for your relationship with the venues and everyone involved. So you've sent the follow-up, Venues replied with maybe a quick thanks or maybe something a bit warmer. Either way, the loop's closed on that relationship and it's in good shape. So now what? You want to give it a bit of time, not forever, but enough that your next contact doesn't feel like a timed follow-up. Kind of 4 to 6 weeks is a reasonable gap for if you want to get in touch about another show. A bit longer if the venue's programming is a bit infrequent, or more if they're running stuff more often and the cycle moves quicker. When you do come back and ask about a second booking, the email looks completely different from the cold inquiry. You're not introducing yourself, you're not attaching an EPK for the venue that already knows your sound, you're writing something as someone who's worked with them and had a good experience with them, and that changes the entire tone of the conversation. Definitely reference the previous show, played back in March, really enjoyed it, and we want to come back. One sentence and anchors everything that follows. So when you do come back and ask about a second booking, the email looks completely different from the cold inquiry. You're not introducing yourself, you're not attaching an EPK for the venue that already knows your sound. You're writing it as someone that's worked with them, had a great experience, and that changes the entire tone of the conversation. Definitely reference the previous show. We played at your venue back in March, really enjoyed it, and would love to come back. One sentence that anchors everything that follows. Now, this is the long game. Not every venue is going to become your regular home, but the ones that do, the ones where you play 4 or 5 times a year, where everyone knows your name, where the venue's already considering you on their rota as they're starting to do their programming. Those relationships almost always start with the band that treated the first booking as a beginning of something rather than a transactional thing, complete and move on from. There's a version of this where bands think the goal is to impress the venue on the night, get paid, and then work on impressing the next one. See, the night is important, obviously, play well, bring people, be easy to work with, but the venue's memory of a good show fades quite quickly, and then they've got another one, and another one, and another one over the next coming weeks. What doesn't fade is the band that made them feel like the relationship really mattered after the fact. And the ones that keep you in the mind of going, yes, book them again column, rather than they were fine, but we've not heard of them since. See, the first show is kind of the audition, and then the follow-ups is what builds that really good relationship. As I said, 24 to 72 hours after the show, 3 or 4 sentences, thank them, specifically close the loop on the night, and leave the door open without pushing. That's the whole thing. Thank you for listening to the Advanced Podcast. Now, if you're a band or a venue that are wanting to improve your gig management, you should check out our logistics management platform, Stage Portal. For bands for roughly the same price as a pint a month, you'll get a complete management system to run everything from bookings to riders, expenses, and more. Designed to help you streamline your logistics, level up your shows, and run smoother gigs time after time.